think we're going to talk a little bit about the format today, and you know how Rogue just isn't in a totally bad place. Don't think 30% of you guys have not smashed the living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so we can climb up to 107,000 here. And for those of you that haven't checked out mcoolgames.com, I'll leave a link down below. We have a crap ton of stuff that released earlier on in the day, and if any of it's left by the time this video goes up, you can get your fair share at it. Alright. This isn't like it's a lazy video, but post-shower Robbie was like, you know, I kind of just want to talk about the format today. You know, besides, like, Despia is kind of taking a little bit of a backseat. You know, we have infinite regional breakdowns. You know, some of these regionals are, like, a week, 2 weeks done at this point in time. And there's just so many of them. I prefer to break down and talk about them per event, but we're going to continue to do that up until probably early July, when the 12 days of deck profiles begin for that interesting segment for July. Spoiler alert. So Despia is kind of taking a little bit of a back seat here. What does that mean? Well, it's dimensional barrier. How many outs do you got in this format right now? Like, let's be honest here. I'm not saying that Despia is dead. No. If you go into an event thinking that Despia is completely dead, you're a clown. Alright, that's what that means. Alright, that's absolute clown emoji definition 101. So, don't be taken back by a regression of the deck's representation does not mean that the deck is dead. Now, that being said, what's going on with Sword Soul? Well, if you haven't noticed, Nibiru has been gaining momentum in this format. You know what beats Sword Soul? A gosh darn well-timed space rock coming down from the heavens tear the deck apart. That does not, once again, mean that Sword Soul representation means the deck is dead. No. I still think, honestly, that Despia and Sword Soul are still your two best seeding decks in the room. That just means that players are kind of taking a step back. Now, of course, we've seen the emergence of Base 2.0. Yeah, I know. Alright, Synchro Turbo Toolbox, as we're going to call it here. Oh, yes. You know, I still think that the concept of base, being able to evolve, do all this crazy stuff, I think that that deck with the punk stuff, some of the coolest stuff that we've seen in the format, alright? Like, honestly, I'm not playing the deck, per se, but that doesn't mean that I don't think that the deck isn't awesome at the end of the day. So, just want to clarify that there. So, 3 best decks in the room, they're pretty much what you honestly expect at this point in time. Well, Robbie, you know, you've talked a lot about Sal, and you've pooped on a lot of Salamangreat. Like, what's up with that? Well, here's the thing. Out of all of these national championships out here, there have been a lot of Salamangreat. Like, a lot. Alright, like, Salad is not by any stretch of the imagination a deck that you should underestimate. But when you're looking at, you know, your top-heavy contenders here in the US, you can tell that our metagame does not favor Salamangreat versus some of the other regions of the world. That's actually one interesting thing that I don't think a lot of players kind of understand is metagames can also be localized per region inside of a format. And I think a lot of people seem to look at like just the TCG and go, well, this is how the format sets up. Yes, there is the overall blanket statement of these are the best decks in the room. Now, when you go via local region, you're going to see that change. You know, these 20 people locals, their metagame is going to be compiled of those 20 players. Sorry to tell you this, fun fact. And if none of those players are playing Despia, well, then their locals isn't going to have Despia. That's just kind of how that works, ladies and gentlemen. Fun fact, alright? So, yes, metagames can be based via region as well within the higher scope of things. That's why when you look at YCS versus regionals, you will see different things within the hemispheres of the game. And that's what I like looking at, because I like seeing how these regions favor these sorts of metagame shifts and things like that. But that's the stupid stuff that people are like, that's not how that works. Okay, sure it is, buddy. Whatever, alright? And you probably don't understand economics. It's a hard concept to grasp for some people, but so there's that. So when I look at Salad, it's not a overall general big region thing for the US. Has it got a couple tops here? Yeah. Is it doing better than like Virtual World? Sometimes. You know, if you look at VW and some of these other roguish decks, you know, Virtual World's still a contender. All right, just because we've kind of written it off of the top end of things here, does not mean that if you forget to play around it, you'll lose. All right, like if you suddenly forget how to play against Virtual World and you play against VW and you go, uh-oh, I messed up, you deserve to lose the game. All right, that's kind of where that era of decks has gone right now, is they've kind of taken that little step back here, that players have kind of been like, oh, you know, like, there's a group of players that now have shown up in the game that are like, Virtual World, what's that? That's a hard concept to grasp, considering that deck was literally the hottest thing, what, 9 months ago? At this point in time? Maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, give or take? Well, it's just kind of how it goes. You know, it's the same thing with, like, Numeron OTK. You know, you'll see this deck come out of nowhere. Every Blue Moon and players are like, this deck is so unbeatable. And you're just like, oh, yeah. Well, that's just kind of the strange things with life. Like, in order to be, like, at the top of your game, all right, top of your Yu-Gi-Oh game here, you do have to understand that there are going to be a lot of decks that you're going to have to gradually know how to play against. And if you don't know how to play against these, then they'll tear you apart, all right? Just like I still play around Gores. Always attack with lowest to highest, 100% of the time. If I get Gores in the year 2022, and I misplayed, I deserve to lose. I'm going to be kicking myself in the butt for that for weeks, all right? Now, in the grand little scope of things here, besides the top end of things, there's been a lot of little roguish decks out here that have been doing okay. You know, we've seen Psychic Fervor top last format, or top 32 at a regional. You got True Draco, Eldritch Shenanigans, you know, VW, Alistair and friends. Somehow, if you don't get debarriered all day, you're doing well. Like, Rogue right now is not in a bad position. Alright, like, 100%. Like, I understand, like, with an appropriate amount of hand traps, the right Nibiru at the right place, you can play around anything. There's a duelist on YouTube. I can't remember his or their channel at this point in time. They've been playing a lot of Evil Swarm. And I saw they took it to an event. They didn't necessarily perform up to like top standards. But you know, those players that stick around to these dedicated crafts, things like that are what I love to see. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I wish we got just a little bit more Evil Swarm support here so that we could have that deck just go straight to the races and just so I could, you know, beat people at this point in time. Honestly, if I could play Evil Swarm in this format, which, I mean, there's technically nothing stopping me. If I played 5, 6, 7 rounds of, you know, decks that have the higher stars, well, congratulations, I'm going to win all day. But we're not in a big enough format for, you know, Evil Swarm to kind of take advantage of that situation. Like, ending on an Ophion with maybe 2 to 3 back row isn't as strong against every other deck in the room. So while I do salute the effort for taking something like Evil Swarm to an event, it is absolutely crazy. Now, I have seen some interesting stun decks here. There are some things I don't think people have seen, like the famous, yes, I'm about to say this, the famous Punk Stun list. Alright, not a lot of people have seen that list yet. We'll eventually get to covering that on this channel, but a lot of interesting little trinkets with that. There's also the very famous Brave deck that was basically pure Brave, Mono Awato shenanigans, and some other stuff like that, and a lot of people have just kind of forgot about this stuff. You know, one-off rogue decks that can show up and kind of take the field and, you know, shake things up and make players kind of second-guess things. It's what you really want to see in these sorts of situations. It's what makes Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! At the end of the day. And, you know, honestly, I think the further that we go into this format here, especially as we're heading up here on WCQ season, you are starting to see that shift in things, you know? And the more and more regional breakdowns, and more national breakdowns you will see here, you will see that change slowly become more apparent here as you see more of these decks kind of take a little bit of a wayside here. So this is kind of your little metagame update for where we're sitting right now. You still are a month away from seeing the WCQ shift on into full season here. You know, I'm sure you're going to see some sort of crazy tech choices. We see it every WCQ out there, every Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship every year. There's always something crazy that shows up, because once the curtains go down for that 3-week time, players are going to begin intensively testing, and you're going to see just some of the craziest shenanigans come out of left field for that. So, what do you guys think about how is our metagame really shaping up right now? Is it to your expectations? Is it what you want to see? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so there's no Melissa more awesome content. And feel free to leave a comment down below as usual. And tell me how you guys are feeling about the metagame. Even Crystal Beast have a local top this format. Peace out, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.